Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. Today we're talking about Fantasy Football 2020 sophomore step-ups. Guys that were rookies last year going their sophomore year in fantasy football. Are they going to do better? Are they going to regress? Are they going to step it up? What are they going to do? On the show, as per usual, Wednesday, we got Tom Santinella. What's going on, Tom?
What's going on, Joe?
Glad to have you on. I like the new mic you got there, the new setup.
Yeah, me too. Let's see how it works.
All right, so let's dive right in here, man. I'm ready to go. Let's start off with the first guy here. Actually, before we do that, I gotta mention something here, Tim. I called you Tim. Actually, I'm getting confused. Everyone's getting the bald guy and Tom confused. Tom and Tim. Now they're saying that you're actually the bad bald guy, and he's the nice guy. How do you feel about that?
We'll let them be the judge. Long season.
Yeah.
It hopefully happens.
All right. So before we get into that, guys, get the 16-round draft solution. Link in the bio. If you guys go to my Instagram, I put a link there. Also, link below here on YouTube. And if you go to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com, under programs, top right-hand side, the first ever and only video training, you got to get it. Make sure you grab it. It'll be the game changer. It'll be an unfair advantage over your competition this year. All right. So let's dive into this. Let's start off with Kyler Murray, sophomore year. Why don't you talk about the reality aspect of Kyler Murray and if you think he's going to step up, and I'll give you the fantasy spin, I guess.
I mean, he started off well last year as a rookie. They're going to throw the ball. I think he's going to have a better second year than, say, a Baker Mayfield. He has more promise, more talent, more potential. And the coaching staff is more consistent there. Obviously, Baker's been through a couple already. So personally, I think I think he is going to step it up. I don't know, as far as winning football games, that's probably the toughest division in the NFL, which is something you have to look at. So they will be behind some games, and I think fantasy-wise, comparing that with reality, I think he's a good fantasy pick, just because he's going to throw the ball.
Right. And actually, I'm actually doing a Kyler Murray giveaway. I was supposed to give it away I think yesterday, but what ended up happening, Tom, is so many people, my DM was inundated, but I wanted to get back to everybody personally. So guys, to enter for this, I'm doing the draw tonight, Wednesday, guys. So if you want to enter for this draw, and there's daily card giveaways. So if you want to enter for a signed Kyler Murray rookie card, all you got to do, guys, is screenshot me that you subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on iTunes, Spotify, or here, and DM me that you did on Instagram. If you already did that already, you're entered. The draw will be tonight. Kyler Murray rookie card draw tonight. So if you guys want to enter, Instagram, DM me a screenshot that you're subscribed. Yeah, in regards to his fantasy point of view, man, I got to tell you, the ceiling is high. His average ADP right now is the 5th round. Am I going to pay that? Probably not. You can get Dak in around the same 5th round kind of value. I'm going to wait. I can get myself a Ryan, Josh Allen, or Russell Wilson the 7th round. Not paying a 5th round pick for Kyler, a guy that I got last year in and around, I think it was around 8 to 10. I was getting him for huge value. The upside's there. They've got Hopkins. The problem is there. I think they're going to spread the ball around. I think Hopkins, 150 targets last year with Watson. He's not going to see that type of volume. I don't see it. With Kirk there, Fitz there, Drake there, Benjamin, all these guys catching the ball in the backfield, it's going to be a disaster. I'm staying away from this situation. I don't want to pay 5th round pick for him at all.
Yeah, but do you think Josh Allen is a comparable player?
I think for fantasy, I think Allen's gonna put up the points. He runs the ball a lot. He's got Diggs there. He's gonna probably throw more this year. Maybe get some throwing touchdowns in, some passing touchdowns. So in regards to fantasy, maybe Kyler finishes with a higher ceiling, but I think Allen will be a solid fantasy pickup, especially for the 7th round compared to paying a 5th round pick.
I think Josh Allen's a better quarterback. I mean, he's already played a few years in the league, playoff. He's playoff ready, playoff tested. This is Josh Allen's year to step up and actually, win in the playoffs. But I think Kyler Murray is going to put up a lot better stats in the passing game. That's just the way it's built. Getting to the playoffs is one thing. Even Tyrod Taylor's gotten to the playoffs and winning, and that's, Josh Allen's better than him. But Josh Allen's, he doesn't strike me as the guy that's just going to drop back and just sling it and be consistent throwing the ball and putting up numbers.
Right. All right, so let's dive in here to the next quarterback, Daniel Jones. Does he take a step forward from a reality point of view for fantasy football? Giants, Daniel Jones, what do you think?
I mean, I think he takes a step up from reality point of view, but I don't think it's going to be an exciting step up. Jason Garrett is going to be the offensive coordinator. So I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the benefit of that bargain right there. And I think all eyes are on him. He's going to use him just Garrett like he used Zeke in Dallas. And I think it's going to be run first, run heavy. And Daniel Jones is going to be there on the play action. And listen, he doesn't have a great group of wide receivers. His tight end is probably a top 5 tight end, but he doesn't play. So I don't know if you can really call him a top 5 tight end at that point, but talent-wise he is. So I think Daniel Jones will take a step up as far as learning the game and managing the game, but I don't think he's going to be consistent. I don't think he's going to be exciting, and I don't think he's going to be fantasy relevant with that, just because of the amount that Saquon's going to have, the amount he's the offense revolves around him. And remember that with the new coaching staff there, that's where they're going to go 100%.
Yeah, I just read yesterday, Giants head coach, you kind of mentioned this, head coach Joe Judge plans to run offensive coordinator Jason Garrett's offense that he ran in Dallas. I mean, again, this could benefit Saquon Barkley significantly, but Garrett obviously being criticized for lack of performance as well. So maybe it could hurt the Giants. I don't know.
I mean, that wasn't a surprise. I mean, I read that too, but everybody already knew that. You don't bring in Garrett to run an old offense from a coach that isn't there. That would just be dumb. Joe Judge is a young, exciting coach. He's not a coach that has an identity on the passing side, on the on the offensive side, on the defensive side. He's a guy that's going to come in and, I don't want to say similar to Mike Tomlin was in Pittsburgh, but more of a coach, and he's going to hire people to run the offense, run the defense. And, if you go back, you can read about him. I'm not going to bore you with all that. He's that kind of guy. He's a special teams coach, wide receivers coach. He does everything like that, but he's more of a leader. And Jason Garrett was the man to run that offense when he was hired, and he's going to push heavy on Saquon.
Okay, so sticking with the Giants, I want to stick to the quarterback thing. Darius Slaton. I mean, we looked at his college numbers. They're not like overly impressive, but he led the team in targets last year. Has some rapport with Daniel Jones. Do you know much about Slaton? I mean, he's slated to be the wide receiver 1. What are your thoughts on him?
It's hard because I think I always say this, by default, he's going to get the opportunity. I don't think talent wise, he has what it takes to be, a wide receiver 1, I guess as you call them.
Right.
He didn't start the season off. He finished, he had some good games last year.
Yeah.
He did pop, but then he had games where he didn't have anything. And those are the kind of wide receivers I would stay away from. It's just going to be super frustrating. Now, year 2s and year 3s are where the wide receivers really pick up and show who they are. It used to take years ago, a couple of years for them to develop in the NFL as a wide receiver. But now you're going to see with the new offense coming in, you're going to see the same thing, inconsistent play. Games where he has a couple catches for, 25 yards, and games he has 8 catches for 120 yards. That's what you're going to see out of him.
Yeah, I'm seeing this major inconsistency. Like if you look at week 9, one reception on 4 targets for 6 yards. Week 10 receptions, 14 targets for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he went, from a fantasy perspective, I'm going to pull this up actually in PPR because I have this up in standard here. From a fantasy perspective, man, that's a big jump. You go from 1.6 fantasy points to 34.1 fantasy points in 1 week. That's insane, Tom. That's a
it's funny. Their wide receiver situation was horrible last year, but you also got to understand one thing that people don't really look at. When you're a number 1 wide receiver, things change. You get double covered if you have the talent to warrant it. And when you're a number 1 wide receiver, much as you can see how Juju Smith turned into the 1 last year, he didn't live up to the expectations. A lot of these players don't have the skill to beat double coverage. And that's one thing that you have to keep a look at early in the season. If he has that kind of skill to be a surefire number 1 wide receiver in this league, to go up against not only double coverage, but even one-on-one against some of the top corners, it's going to be tough. It's tough to go against that.
So I'm looking at Daniel Jones and Slaton. Both these guys you get for free. Daniel Jones not as high on as a backup, because if I were going to consider him for fantasy, he'd be my backup. There's other guys I like as a backup. I can get late. I can get Big Ben. I can get Ryan Tannehill. I can get maybe even Drew Locke. I think has a higher ceiling. They did beef up the O-line, which is exciting. But again, the receiver is a big question mark there. So I'm probably going to stay away. And with Slaton, I think I can get him as a wide receiver 4 super late. And he's got that ceiling because he is slated to be potentially the wide receiver 1. Shepard's there. Tate could emerge. And he was showing that he was the wide receiver 1 for Jones at the end of the season. So I kind of like the upside of these guys, but big question marks, late round stashes.
Well,
Let's
is
move
that
on.
a type of guy, fantasy wise? You pick him up late. He's a backup. You throw him on your bye week, and you just pray to God that he
That's
has a
a good
good
move.
week that week, and that's the week.
All
I
right,
would.
Tom, let's move on here. Staying on the quarterback, Drew Locke. This guy's loaded with weapons. I don't know how much you know about KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy. I know a bit about Jerry Jeudy. Amazing route running, one of the top prospects coming out of the NFL draft 2020. Now he's paired up with him. Hamler, Jeudy. You've got Sutton. You've got Fant. You got Melvin Gordon. You've got a decent O line. How is his offense? Is this going to be a potent offense? Are they going to be solid this year in regards to reality? Let's start off with reality first, I guess.
Well, I think first of all, it's going to help Cortland Sutton more than anybody because bringing in the other weapons is going to take pressure off Sutton. It's going to not just pressure; it's going to take coverage off Sutton and allow it to go on to the other side of the field, allow it to go to Hamler possibly in the slot, and it's just going to Melvin Gordon give them some more substantial running game, a more of a true running game. However, I don't know. I mean, we talked about before. Judy's a great football player. I thought he was the best receiver in the draft, as a lot of people did. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being a one receiver there eventually, but I think it opens up the door more for Sutton to free him up some more, to still shine as the number one and even be better than what he was slated to be.
Yeah, I think it definitely opens things up for him. It depends on Drew Lock. A lot of this is weighted on Drew Lock. Love him as a fantasy football sleeper near the end with a ton of ceiling, ton of weapons. Judy, I could be more excited, but rookie coming in, we always have those question marks. Sutton definitely takes a leap this year. Fant could be a beneficiary. Depends. We don't know his style. We don't know his NFL style. Is Drew Lock going to feed the tight end more? If that's the case, we're looking at a big boom type of year for Noah Fant. I'm excited to watch his offense in general. I don't know how it's going to play out. I think there's a lot of targets. It all depends. It's all going to be on the shoulders of Drew Lock and who he gravitates to.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, next guy here. Let's move on to my favorite here is running backs. And this one's clear cut for me. Josh Jacobs, man. I mean, he is primed to really succeed this year. He's a full workhorse running back there. Now, there is an issue with this guy, Lynn Bowden Jr., 6'1", 199, 22-year-old. I think this guy could play his tight end as well. I don't know too much about this guy, Lynn Bowden. I don't know if you know much about him, but they've got him slotted as a running back as well. So I don't know, man. I think he becomes a workhorse back. Jacobs, what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. I think you meant quarterback with Bowden. I think he played quarterback.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Sorry.
He's more of an athlete. He's more in there. I don't want to say a trickster, more in there. You know how I don't want to say Tyreke Hill because he's a phenomenal wide receiver, but a guy that can come in. They can put him in the slot. They can run the ball. Just get him some touches every game. He's not going to be a threat to take the workhorse title off of Jacobs at all. And I would stick with Jacobs as the workhorse there.
He will be. Yeah. That's what I meant, quarterback. And that's what I mean. He's very versatile in his positions, kind of gadgetry type of stuff they may do with him. But I love Jacobs as a full workhorse running back there. He's in a prime position. He's coming off a late first round. You could draft him there comfortably. So Jacobs definitely taking a step up this year. And as I was talking to a Raiders guy, he was telling me that he had a bum shoulder after week 7. So I'm expecting him to perform well. And it shows his mental grit and toughness going into 2020. Love the upside, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. Going into a new stadium, new city. Who knows? Nobody may be in the stadium next year. But I hear that stadium actually is looking really, really nice. I heard some people talking about it the other day. It's almost done. And I think it's going to be phenomenal when they go into that. There's going to be a lot of energy, fan base, and I think they're going to have a really good year.
I hope so. It depends if the fans are in the stands. If the fans are not in the stands, it's going to be a different energy. And I don't want to talk too much about what's going on with the world situation, but I will tell you from a psychological point of view, just wanted to get your thoughts on this. With the fans not potentially being there, will this affect gameplay? Because you understand you get a little bit worked up when your fan base is behind you or against you. Will this affect the gameplay and kind of tone down the level of ability? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, for some players, it will. It will
Yeah.
be positive for some, negative for some others, and you really won't know that until it happens because some players are practice players. They perform better in practice. Some people in life are talented, but when it comes under pressure and under nerves, they suck. I mean, the UFC just put on a fight last week, and some of the fighters said it didn't affect them. Some said it helped them. It definitely is going to have an effect, and we may have half stadiums. We may have 25%. We may have nothing. We may have full. We don't know. Some cities may be different than others, and that They're already starting to come out and say that. So I personally think that you just don't know until you're in it, but it will definitely have an effect on some people. Some people thrive off the fans.
Right.
But you will have an effect for sure.
The narcissist will come out for sure and be like, man, I need my fans there. So I think it may affect them. I think, especially with fighting, because I've been in the cage and I've fought a bit. I think you're so tunnel vision when you're fighting. You're not really like, I didn't even know the fans were kind of there. I kind of heard the coach yelling in the background, but you're kind of so honed in. Maybe it's the same type of thing for football. It's going to be interesting to see. Okay, another guy here, Tom, and then this is the thing. Okay, you can call me a Dalvin Cook hater, but maybe I am. But for fantasy, this guy's not been to a fantasy football championship, hasn't finished a season in 3 years. Yes, had a good season last year, but fell apart with the shoulder or whatever was bothering him up here. He's had some leg injuries, knee injuries, whatever it is. Dalvin Cook, when you watch him play, I don't know if you studied the tape on him last season. He had some good runs, which I give him credit for. I just felt he was playing it safe. Every time he got the ball, he'd gravitate to the sideline. I think it was sheer preservation for him to get paid big. The guy I'm talking about is Madison, though, taking a leap forward. I'm drafting him. You can get him for free in your fantasy football drafts, literally after round 10, 12. You get him, and I think this guy is going to be the starter with the Vikings by week 5. What are your thoughts on Cook this year and Madison taking a step forward?
I mean, I don't think Madison's the starter. The Cook, people are talking holding out. The problem is this isn't Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell wasn't under contract technically when he was holding out, so he wasn't losing money. When you got a guy like Cook holding out, he's under contract. I mean, I don't know if it's $14,000 a day. It's a lot of money that he's going to lose if he holds out that he may never get back. And I mean, look, they got rid of Diggs. Diggs had some problems last year. They said, all right, bye. They traded him.
Right.
So they're not going to sit here and get held hostage, especially by a running back. When's the last time somebody got held hostage, really, by a running back? It just, they don't want to pay him early. Look what happened with the Gurley deal. That wasn't a good deal. Derrick Henry didn't get paid. So,
Freeman, that didn't go too well. He got paid a lot.
It never goes well. I mean, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 times, 30 times, maybe it goes well. But they may just use. I mean, a lot of teams are going to use and abuse. Remember, he's in a contract year this year, much like Leonard Fournette. I look at that. Players perform when they're in their contract years usually, and they're about to get paid. So I like Cook for that reason. I think he's going to come in and play. What are you going to do? Come in and half-ass it and then not get a contract next year? I mean, he wasn't a first-round pick. He fell in the draft. He fell for some reasons. So he hasn't gotten paid yet. I personally think he's going to come out there and he's going to give it his best.
Yeah, but I don't think his body's going to hold up. That's my opinion. So
I mean, look at Jordan Reed when he came out. His body never held up until his contract year. He got paid and it never held up again.
I think the Vikings are stupid if they pay him. I think Madison is just as capable. I think he's just as capable behind that offense.
He was a 3rd-round pick, right? I mean, he came in with some thunder. You don't draft guys in the 3rd round just to twiddle their thumbs on the sideline. So I think if Cook is gone after this year, he will take it. I don't know. This year, I think they're going to give. I mean, Cook's a better running back, I believe. But can Madison get the job done if given the opportunity? Yes,
I think so.
Yeah, getting him for free, like you said, I think would be a bonus.
Another situation where I think the running back is a product of the offense. If you put Cook in Miami or if you put Cook on with the Jets, he's not going to do as well. Just the same type of thing with Le'Veon Bell. Overrated running backs in great situations where another guy can come in and do an equal job. That's what I think.
I mean, I disagree in some reason because I think it matters on the system and in the coaching, kind of like what you said. But Le'Veon Bell's not a bad running back. Le'Veon Bell is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. The guy, you can put him at wide receiver. Do you know? I've watched him play live multiple times. Do you know the catches he's made in the end zone, the catches he's made lining up from the slot? If used correctly, he's one of, if not the best running back in the NFL. I mean, he's phenomenal. Now, could you say he's getting older? He's got a lot of wear and tear in his body. Yes, but look at the shitty situation you have there with the shitty coaching staff and the shitty play calling. I mean, that's a different story. Now, Joe Douglas came into the Jets and he's building it from the inside out. That's how he's building that team. He's building it from the line. He's building toughness. He's building blue collar players. He's, the problem is I don't think they're going to be ready this year. Darnold, the jury's still out on him, but I think personally, Gase is probably going to be gone after this year. He wasn't Joe Douglas's hire as the GM. So I think they're going to show some promise. Maybe they'll go 8-8 or something like that. But I think Gase will lose some games for them. But Le'Veon Bell, I mean, they bring in Frank Gore. First of all, Frank Gore is only making $1 million, maybe a little more this year. Honestly, when you're making $1 million, barely, I think it's a couple hundred guaranteed, he could be gone in the preseason for all we know. So I wouldn't count too much into that. You have to look at what they pay them as well. So I think Le'Veon Bell is super talented. You're right, though. But you put Le'Veon in Buffalo as the sole running back. I mean, he's going to be a monster.
Right, definitely. And I think Madison takes a step up this year. Look for him to start at some point of the season. Again, Cook, you're looking at 3 years where he hasn't finished the season. I'm not seeing anything change. You're 0 for 3. That's a strikeout if it's baseball.
Well, what has Gase done when he was the OC in Denver? That was Peyton Manning's team, right? I don't remember who the running back was then. He was in Miami. He didn't have hardly any. I mean, the running back was a fiasco there, the situation. And he was a fiasco in the Jets. I mean, I don't even know how he got this job.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. He's definitely on a short leash. So
you have to look at those little things. Who's run, like we said in Dallas, Jason Garrett leaned heavy on Zeke. They're going to lean on Saquon all day over there. Why wouldn't you? That's what they got. They took him second in the draft on purpose. I mean, for a reason, to use him. So Saquon's going to get a lot of catches. He's going to get a lot of touches, and he's probably going to be one of the most dynamic players in the NFL. It's all opportunity. It's opportunity.
I love him.
Yeah.
So he's actually my first overall pick for fantasy 2020. I got him ahead of McCaffrey this year. I'm the only one that has him like that. All right, let's move on here. Speaking of guys on short leashes, Matt Nagy. Montgomery's got to run the ball. 242 attempts last season, 6 rushing touchdowns, 3.7 yards per carry, making holes when there weren't any holes there. I was talking to a guy who's training with Montgomery. He's a doctor. I guess Montgomery's working on his top end speed, been working on a lot of things. He is honed in and focused. They didn't acquire another running back that's going to come in aside from Tyreke Hill, who doesn't get the rushing attempts, which was crazy last year. I see like 3rd and 1, and they'd bring Tyreke Hill to run up the middle. Like, I don't understand. He was trying to be too cute with a couple of plays. Nagy was. So Montgomery, this is the year he could explode. What are your thoughts on him stepping up in that offense?
You know, to rewind a little bit, you go back to 2 years ago, they made the trade for Khalil Mack, one of the top defenses. They lost in the playoffs. I think with that, a little miscue by the kicker. Going into last season, they were supposed to be pretty dominant. Major setback at the quarterback situation. Coaching questionable, obviously, all year long, on the hot seat. GM, coach. So I think this is another, a lot of these teams, like it's in that make it or break it type of situation. They brought in Nick Foles. I think they are going to run the ball. I think they have to use Montgomery. I think he has the talent to be a starting running back in the NFL. When he gets the touches, some games only at 12 carries, 13 carries. I mean, you can't rely on somebody getting 12, 13 carries to be a fantasy starter in fantasy football. Or, I don't think they have anyone that could compete with him on the talent level. So I think, he played better towards the end of the season, got more opportunities towards the end of the season. So I think listen, they brought in Nick Foles, who's making $18 million, I think. They brought him into play. Naggy was in Kansas City with, I think he was with Doug Peterson, who coached, he coached Foles in Philadelphia, but Doug Peterson was the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. So I assume him and Naggy are close. And I don't know if they talk every day. I don't know if they're friends, but they coached in Kansas City together, ran the same offense, the West Coast offense. They're probably going to use Foles the same way they did in Philly and run the same offense they did in Philly a few years ago. And I think he did lean heavy on the running backs in Philly that year, if you remember. I know Ajayi had some good games and he was hurt a little bit, but he had some good games. So I think they're going to use the running back this year.
I hope so. I think they have to. They need to mix things up, and I think Montgomery is going to be a beneficiary. He's a solid player, and he can catch the ball better than Tyreke Hill can. So I don't see why they would take him off the field. And that was a very frustrating thing as a fantasy owner of Montgomery last year. You'd see him run off a good play for 10 or 12 yards, and then he'd just run off the field. They put Tyreke Hill in. It was the most annoying thing you could ever experience as a fantasy owner. So I think Montgomery gets a boost, but I'm not drafting him as an RB1 or 2. Never mind even as a 3. I can get this guy in the 5th, 6th round as my RB4 if I'm going robust RB. So why not? Why not throw him on your roster? He's primed.
One thing you guys have to understand is that when a coach is in trouble, a lot of times they like to go with guys they know and they trust, even though they're not as talented. Foles isn't as talented as Trubisky, obviously, but I don't think he likes Trubisky. I don't think he trusts him. Maybe he doesn't fit the system. So I think he's going to play it safe and go with Foles. The potential for an explosion and a better offense is not going to be there, and I think that benefits Montgomery.
Excellent. All right, let's move on to some more sophomores here. We've got 3 more players to talk about. Now, there's other players we could talk about as well. But I want to just kind of focus on the guys that are really fantasy relevant. There might be 4 more players here, actually. Next guy is Singletary. They've acquired Zach Moss. The Bills have. What do you think of Singletary, man? I'm a little annoyed now. Zach Moss coming in there is going to probably steal some goal line work. Probably going to be a thorn there. This is a real pain in the ass for me.
I mean, I've told this to you in 2 other podcasts. I think Zach Moss is better than Singletary. Coming out of college, I think he was better. He was supposed to have a better year than he did. He almost came out last year as a junior, had a phenomenal junior year. I think coming out of college, he's ranked higher than Singletary. I think he could have went a little higher in the draft. Other years, he probably would have went higher. I think he's just going to be a really good running back. I think he's better than Singletary, which it sucks because they're both just good running backs. They're not Saquon Barkley's. They're not like, Le'Veon Bell's where they can line up in the slot and do all crazy stuff, but they're just very, very good running backs, and they're pure running backs. It's not like you're bringing in a toy like that guy, the guy from Kentucky and Oakland. It's not like you're bringing in a gadget type player or a Taysom Hill. I know he's a quarterback, but you're bringing in somebody that does the same thing. Much similar to the situation in Green Bay, which we can get to. But this situation, AJ Dillon is even worse because all he does is run the ball. You're not bringing him in to catch the ball. He's arriving. I told you that the other 2 podcasts. He's going to end up. They're giving him the shot. But if you look at this situation, I really like Zach Moss. I mean, I think he can take that job. But the problem is Singletary's not bad. He's not old. It's not like you're coming in to replace a Frank Gore. You're your 2nd year in the league, but there was something they've seen that they weren't super happy about. Number 1. Number 2, the Bills draft good players. So I'd rather have 2 good running backs, the coaches may say, rather than 1. The best man's going to win that job and, be the every down back, I would think. And then I wouldn't necessarily see one of them as a goal line back over the other. I mean, it could emerge that way. I would see one of them winning the job as the better running back and the other coming to be the backup.
Let's do next week's episode on RB battles. We should do that on who's going to fight. And that's one we got to talk about. We got to talk about Taylor and Mack. We got to talk about AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. There's a ton of situations where I'm beyond annoyed. And there's talk, maybe by next week, it already happened. Have you heard much about Carlos Hyde going to the Texans? There's rumor about that. Carlos Hyde going to the Eagles. That could be annoying.
He could. I mean, he turned down an offer to go back to Houston a while ago. From what I heard, it wasn't enough money. But I think I don't know. I mean, everything that people report things in the media just because a team talked to somebody. Hyde's probably talked to 10 teams.
Right.
Well, I mean, maybe he goes there, but you can't believe everything you hear from these people.
Okay, let's move on to wide receivers. The guy I absolutely love this upcoming season at the wide receiver position. We're talking DK Metcalfe, man. I think the ceiling is high there. I think there's a ton of upside. He's got a great quarterback throwing him the ball. I mean, DK Metcalfe looking to step up this season, especially being a good red zone target, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on DK Metcalfe? Is he special talent, or is he just going to be a guy that kind of goes under the radar? Now, one more thing I want before you get into that. 100 targets last year, 58 receptions, 900 yards receiving, and 7 touchdowns. So he was a second target behind Locke. Locke a little bit, more than him with 110 targets, 10 targets more than Metcalfe. More receptions, 1,057. So he had more receptions and 1 more touchdown than Metcalfe. Who's the wide receiver 1? Do you think Metcalfe could step it up this season?
Locke doesn't have the talent to be a number 1. But Metcalfe does. I think Metcalfe is going to step up, and I think he's going to develop a rapport with Russell Wilson. You got to remember, Lockett's been there for a little while. Russell Wilson is a veteran, an MVP contender, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So sometimes those guys need to build some trust with the receiver. And sometimes that takes years to develop. They know where they're going to be on 3rd and 8. They know where they're going to be if they don't have all their eyesight making a throw. So I think the more trust he builds up, I don't know what they've been doing this offseason has been tough because they're not. You got to remember too. I mean, it's a factor. I don't want you guys to think too hard, but there's no offseason training right now. So a lot of this rapport, which is going to hurt the rookies and going to benefit the veterans more. I know Metcalfe's not a rookie, but with no offseason training, like with Drew Locke and Jerry Jeudy, there is no way to build a connection right now. So when in doubt, go with the veteran guy. You have to. But I like Metcalfe. They already have a little rapport, and I think he's going to take a step up. And he's got the talent to do it.
I like him. Another guy that's great value. I've got a bunch of mock drafts. I print out mock drafts. I'm obsessed. I've been looking at where he's coming off. He's coming off in the 5th round on average, beginning of the 5th round. I think that's good if you've already gotten 3 running backs to get Metcalfe as your wide receiver 1, 2. I think that could be solid. I love him this year. I love the upside, love the ceiling. And man, I just can't wait for football. I can't stop. All I do is talk about this. I just want football to happen.
I mean, I think he can make the jump like Cortland Sutton did.
Yeah, definitely. The other two more guys here I want to talk about. I know, again, if we missed a guy, leave a comment below. We'll cover it in another episode. I just went through it real quickly here. Want to go for the guys that I felt were fantasy relevant, the guys that I think are going to take a step up. But I'm talking about here is AJ Brown. I mean, he had a great season last year. Could have been better. I think he started to turn it up a little bit, like probably say near the end of the season. Tannehill's back. He's incentivized. He's paid. I want to see his targets go up. Only 84 targets, 8 touchdowns. Now that's only with 84 targets. He had 8 touchdowns over 1,000 yards. He had 1,051 receiving yards. That is with 84 targets. You got to imagine what if he had, where like Michael Thomas had. Michael Thomas had 185 targets. 84 targets. He's got 8 touchdowns. What do you think of AJ Brown? Do you think the ceiling is there, and can Tannehill make him relevant?
Well, there's a few things you have to look at. Number one, he was a rookie. Number two, he has talent. There's no doubt about it. He has the talent. Number three, he was on the same team as Metcalfe, I believe, in college and went ahead of him in the draft. So most every NFL evaluator had him ahead of Metcalfe and more talented. The next thing you have to look at is his quarterback situation and his offense. I'll put those together. He's got the offense there. The Titans, they revolve around Derrick Henry. That's their go-to. So you need to be able to him break out in his second year and kind of be Tannehill's go-to guy. Now, Tannehill's never been able to have success. He blew it with his first round pick. I think, the Dolphins had a receiver. Was it Devontae Parker? Never really, materialized with him. I think that's the problem. I wouldn't want to have Tannehill throwing my number one receiver the ball. So I don't know if he can develop into a one. He definitely has the talent to. I'm just not a fan of them this year. I think they were only 9-7 last year. They weren't as good as people thought. They had a run in the playoffs. They beat a couple teams up in the first half. They were up in the first half on the Chiefs. Then they got bombed. They're not a team that can. Here's the problem. They're not a team that can come from behind. They're a team that wants to run the ball, control it, maybe some play action. Tannehill's not going to sit there and throw the ball 40 times a game and just sitting there in the pocket. He's not that kind of guy. He got overpaid, but I guess they don't have many other options out there. Who are they going to go to? So I think he's talented for sure. I just don't like the situation he's in.
To give you a sample here, Jarvis Landry back in 2016 had 131 targets, 94 receptions, and 4 touchdowns from Tannehill. I mean, that's not bad. And then Stills had 9 touchdowns received, but he only had 81 targets. So I think he made Landry relevant, right? To some degree.
Look at the yards per catch.
Well, the yards per catch for which one?
Landry. It was horrible.
Don't have that in front of me here.
Landry was great. He was a punt returner. He had a lot of balls, like possession guy, catch the ball, not a lot of yards after the catch. But he was his guy. So yeah, I guess he does have the potential to be that guy. AJ Brown is talented, like I said, but I don't know if Tannehill can take advantage of all of AJ Brown's talents. But Landry was a very good player. The Dolphins didn't want him. They didn't think so. They didn't want to pay him. So he was their guy by default that time. And he went when a quarterback doesn't have that arm to really, or that pocket presence, like Brady, to move it around, to take those deep balls and to really play the game. He always looks for a safety net and a guy that's going to say, hey, here's the ball. Third and 15, they throw him an 8-yard pass. He gets tackled there. He's going to be that safety net type of guy. And Landry was his go-to guy with not a lot of excitement if you really look deep into it. And Landry hasn't produced much since he went to Cleveland, has he?
He did okay last year with Cleveland, but to go back to 2016, 12.1 yards per reception. And Stills was actually higher at 17.3. So, yeah, it wasn't that high with Landry. So he didn't do much after that. So, it's going to be interesting. I think A.J. Brown's got a ceiling. And what is he? He's 5th round value? I can get him, 6th round for fantasy? Why not?
Yeah, he has a ceiling.
Sorry, 4th to 5th round is kind of his ADP. Coming off pretty early. So, I mean, I liked him last year as a bargain. I don't know. He is appealing, though.
Yeah, see, the Titans are, it's weird. When you go 9, I mean, listen, like I said, they weren't 13-3 last year. Everybody knows what they're about. And I mean, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. That's a very tough division this year.
Yep.
Houston is the favorite in that division. They're doing some things with Bill O'Brien's the GM now and the coach. It's going to be tough. They weren't spectacular last year. They lost a lot of games. They barely won a few games. If you really look deep into it, they won a few games at the end of the fourth quarter where they shouldn't have won. But then
Right.
they were in a lot of close games. They weren't exciting. Those kind of teams scare me because they just and then you saw them in the playoffs. They just don't have the capacity to really come back and win a football game. That's what you saw with Baltimore last year in the playoffs.
Right.
So,
Anticlimactic, kind of like Tyrod Taylor was with the Bills. He's just those boring teams, right?
but Mike Vrabel's a great coach. They're a great football team. As a team, they have a great defense and a great core, a great line. But hey, listen, they're coming in to run the ball, and then they're going to try to go 10-6 and sneak into the playoffs and do the same thing as last year. They're not built to go 14-2. Let me ask you a question: if you see one team in the NFL, in the AFC, the two teams that can go 13-3, 14-2, who are they?
Man, that's a tough question this time of year. What are your guesses?
I mean, it's obviously the Chiefs and the Ravens, and I mean, I guess you can say the Texans can go 13-3 underneath it. But that's really it, right? Those teams are like there. I mean, the Chiefs obviously, and then the Ravens. Nobody would be surprised if they did that. If the Titans went, 5-11, would you be surprised?
Not really.
But if the Chiefs did, you would, right? And the Ravens.
Yeah. I mean, they're just high octane. It's just to be expected from those teams. There's teams that are just like, hey, that's expected. They're elite, ultra elite, and those guys that kind of like, they're just scraping by and getting lucky. I thought the Eagles were kind of that team when they won the Super Bowl. I didn't think they were a special team.
No, but sometimes that's all it takes. The Eagles. Yeah, but when the Eagles won, they were what was Carson Wentz? He was like what 13-1, 13. It was a crazy record. Remember?
Right. He had a good year.
I think he got hurt. Was he playing the Rams or something like that when he got hurt? I mean, he had a phenomenal year. They were blowing teams. They were playing really, really good football, and they just shocked the world in the playoffs. I think they beat Atlanta. Remember when they beat Atlanta?
Right.
I think that was one of the teams they beat, and Atlanta just didn't show up. That was the beginning of their demise. And then you look at it. I don't know if they beat I don't know who they beat after that. But then the Patriots. I mean, Patriots almost won that game, and they probably should have. But the Eagles they had really their team gelled that year. And if you look at it, a lot of those players are playing like shit now. But they just had a special team that year. Now, could you say the Titans could have done it last year? Possibly. I mean, they possibly could have. If the Titans got to the Super Bowl, they could have. That would have been a tough battle with San Francisco. And they had the lead on Kansas City, but Kansas City is a powerful football team.
Yeah, they're hard to beat. They're just going to keep putting the points on the board. So yeah, I mean, going to the Chiefs. Let's end this off here. AJ Brown going 4th round. Will you invest in him? Yeah, but make sure you get other wide receivers as well. Other wide receiver ones. Get yourself a T.Y. Hilton after a Cooks. If you're going robust RB, get other wide receivers. Get some depth at wide receiver. Get AJ Brown. Okay. To wrap this up, we're talking Chiefs. Mecole Hardman. I mean, another guy that could be a wide receiver one on his team. He's got that type of talent, that type of speed. That's why I was kind of surprised they paid Tyreke Hill so much when they got Mecole Hardman. Why do you need Tyreke Hill so much? He's great, but
you got to look at two things. They were going to pay him big money before the abuse allegations came out. Then they shelved those talks. Then they look at what they signed him. I mean, he's a number 1 wide receiver. He had a phenomenal year the year before last year, 2 years ago. He played where he was supposed to make like 20-something million a year. I mean, he was going to cash in, but they got him at a discount. I mean, why would you not sign him at a discount? They got one of the top wide receivers in the NFL at a substantial discount because of his behavior or alleged behavior.
Alleged behavior, yeah.
I mean, look at the value that signing was.
I know.
Now, listen, the kid's been in trouble when he was in college. That's why he fell to the 5th or 6th round, wherever he went. He was supposed to go higher than that. He had major issues in college. He had another 1 or 2 issues in the pros. Most guys that get in multiple issues do not change. So they drafted Hardman. Not only number 1 is insurance. If they want to be able to slide him into his spot eventually, if he gets in trouble again, I mean, he might be toast.
Right.
There wasn't, I guess, enough evidence to convict him whether he did or did not do it. I mean, I'm not the judge or the jury on that case, and I really don't give a shit. But then you look at Hardman. I mean, what's better than having 1 good wide receiver? Having 2.
Right.
And all of a sudden, in 2 years, when he makes another contract demand, they can say, fuck you, we'll pay Hardman and let him go. Because he's going to. If he stays clean for a couple years, not clean, but off the field issues, he's going to make a contract demand. I mean, I think it was a shorter deal, too, if I remember correctly. So they might trade him, or they might just move on. I don't think they signed Chris Jones yet, who was their starting defensive tackle, was one of the top in the league under Aaron Donald. So they're going to have to, they're trying to keep that. Here's the other thing. They have to pay Mahomes is going to make over $40 million a year and be the top quarterback in the game, pay wise. Deshaun Watson is probably going to sign a little bit under him, or around there. But whoever signs first, it's probably going to be Watson and then Mahomes. I'm not sure. But then you're going to have to look at the other weapons. I mean, he has Kelsey out there who's been in the league a little while, but he's you spread the ball to him. They got the new running back in there that you really like. That will probably get They got Sammy Watkins, who, I mean, as much as people want to hate on him, he actually has played better as his career went on. Never lived up to the hype. I think there was an article out today. He suffered from severe depression and drinking, which, the mental health you have to feel bad for. So has he figured it out, and can he develop? Maybe not into what he was supposed to be, but if he develops on the other side, yeah, then where are the balls going to go? They're going to be spread around.
They will be, yes. They will be. And that's why it's hard to trust these guys. But McCole Hardman's a deep sleeper that you can get that could, have some boom games, but I think it's going to be volatile. But if Tyreke Hill goes down or hurt, and he's been hurt before, McCole Hardman can really step it up. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on him.
Yeah, and the way the game has changed, I know it's more of a passing league, but even if you go to San Francisco, who loves to run the ball, I don't look at Samuel as being a guy that's going to get 10 catches a game. I just don't see it in that offense. They run the ball first, and they're not afraid to go to a different running back, each week. It's just the game has changed and the offenses have changed. As you know now, fantasy 5-10 years ago, there was one running back on every team. There was no running back by committee unless you didn't have a good running back. Buffalo would have went into the year with Singletary and then they wouldn't have drafted another running back right there.
That's how it should be. You got to believe in your guy. You got to believe in your guy, like the Cowboys believe in Zeke, like the Giants believe in Saquon, like the Titans believe in Henry. I'm not seeing too much of it. I'm very annoyed right now, Tom, with the way things are going.
I don't know if the Titans believe in Henry in that sense. They haven't paid him, but I think they believe it. Listen, you draft a running back. Now the model is you use him and you abuse him for his rookie contract. And if he's got a little more left in the tank, franchise him a year or two. I mean, Zeke held out early and he got paid, but we'll see if that works out. But you have to understand, I mean, the model is to use and abuse the running backs and then let them go to another team and let somebody else pay for them. And you just draft somebody else.
That's it, man. So one more guy. I won't talk too much about him. I like him, and I think you can get him in, in round 5 to 7 type thing. Debo Samuel, they're spreading the ball around. They just got that Brandon Ayuk guy, rookie. I'm not sold. They're going to spread the ball around, so I don't want to talk too much about Debo.
I agree. I mean, the other thing you have to look at is quarterback Garoppolo does need a go-to guy, but I think that's going to be Kittle. Kittle was the go-to guy when he was in a crunch last year. And I think they're going to use Debo as a gimmick player, but also as the one wide receiver. But I think, they drafted a wide receiver in the, I think it was in the first or second round this year.
Yeah.
And, I think they're going to try to mold Samuel into the one, but Kittle's really the true number one there. Much how Gronk was the number one in New England. I think you're going to see that. He's really going to rely on Kittle more than he is for those big plays.
Right. Yeah. Debo could definitely take a step up if you're looking at him as a sophomore guy, but will he have that top 10? Maybe. But the fact that they spread the ball around so much, and then they invested Brandon Ayuk, they got him, I think, in the first round, 25th overall. I'm looking at it right now. That's an early pick to get a wide receiver, man. Where's your faith in Debo to invest a first round pick on someone else? It bothers me.
I mean, I think they want to, but everyone knows they needed another wide receiver. And I think they're going to use Ayuk, and I think they're going to use Samuel. Ayuk could, he went higher in the draft than Samuel did. He's, potentially more talent than him too. So that's something you have to keep an eye on. But they want to run the ball. They're going to rely on the run first. That's what they're going to do. Rely on the run first and set up the passing game. And, they're going to be probably the favorites over the Seahawks in the NFC West, and in the NFC in totality. I would say I don't know if they're going to be the favorites in totality again. They're right up there though. You got to look at the tiers. Like, where are they? They're going to be up big. They're going to run the ball. They're going to win a lot of. They dominated teams last year, right? And then you run the ball. In that division, it's going to be a tough division, I think. I think then you go. They bombed the Packers. The Packers were like on a different tier. They beat them up. They destroyed them. And I think that's why you see the Packers trying to get tougher and make some changes.
Right.
We can talk about that in the future.
All right, Tom, man, that wraps it up. I just want to do sophomore setup, sophomore projections, what we thought. There's a lot of insight for you from a fantasy and a reality point of view. And most of these guys, you get a value. Montgomery, like I said, it's 5th, 6th round. Madison for free. Singletary, I'm probably staying away from because of Moss. And there you go. There's a sleeper for you with Moss. Jacobs, I like him this year. Metcalfe, boom type of game. So there you have it, guys. A ton of information. Leave your comments below. Leave your questions below. Love to hear your feedback. Are these guys going to step up, go down? What you think? And also let me know if you're going to draft them. That's it, Tom. We'll see you guys next week. Anything else you want to say, Tom, to everybody?
And I'll see you soon.
See you soon. He keeps it simple. All right, Tom. Thanks. We'll talk soon, guys. Subscribe, and we are out.